Hey, fellow warriors, Sarah here. I want to speak to you on the importance of speaking up. I'm going to give some tips, some tricks on how I practice speaking up and why I feel it's so important. So, first off, when we speak up, whether we're at a doctor's appointment, whether we're interacting with someone else, whether it be family, friends, and coworkers, any sort of situation where you need to speak up and advocate for yourself, it's really important that we ask questions. When we ask questions, we are educating ourselves so then we can educate others. Because if we take all the knowledge in, it's not fair if we just hold it in and we don't share. Whether it's about a diagnosis, or whether it's about a way to communicate with us that works more effectively, because let's be real, all of us communicate differently. And there is no one set standard of what's okay. And we need to start meeting each other in the middle and making sure that we are thinking of more than just ourselves in that. So when we educate ourselves and then we share with others, we're educating them as well. And it's really important because if you don't know something, then you're going to assume. And when you assume in any sort of relationship or healthcare specifically, it's not making a good recipe for a positive outcome. Typically, disasters happen when we assume that things are okay, or this is for this, but I think it's for something else. And so it's really important that we ask questions because we want that clarity. And it's really important too, so that way you can move forward with that education, whether it's on a treatment, on a specific medication, or just your diagnosis in general. It's really important that you get that clarity so that way you can move forward and eventually be an advocate as well, because I think we all need to work in this together. One huge thing about asking questions is with medications, you really want to know what they are for and any sort of side effects, and as far as like timelines of when you might experience certain things. So it's important to take notes. I had talked about that briefly in the previous video, as far as the importance of taking notes and maybe color coding things so that way you have your questions and your answers and whatnot. But when you are taking care of your health, whether it's your physical health, your mental health, it's really important that you are taking care of yourself in the best way. And if you don't say something, that can really hurt you in the end. And so making sure that you're asking those questions, that way you educate yourself and make sure you're knowledgeable about what you're taking, why, dosing, and interactions, everything like that. So now switching gears on advocating for yourself, specifically with medical care. Um, Talking a little bit about providers. This can be kind of a touchy subject because a lot of people, I think, feel that once they have a certain provider, they have to stick with them. And I want to like erase all that logic because that's not true at all. I firmly believe that there's providers out there that are great for some people and not great for others. It can be a personality, it can be not as much of an interest or a knowledge on a certain area of expertise, and it could just be that that season in your life, you're not meant to be with that provider. And that's really okay that you have different providers treating the same thing at different seasons of your life. It doesn't make one provider a bad provider, and it doesn't make you a bad patient. And it's really important that you advocate for yourself. Now, when you're seeking a new provider or a second opinion, it's really important that you're still respectful. I don't believe that we need to completely badmouth a provider. Say you had a bad experience. I don't think the provider then itself or the clinic needs to be completely shut down, but I do feel that there is power in voicing your opinion of what happened or your experience of what happened, because that may be a common pattern, and it's just something really important to keep in mind for everybody. And everyone's needs deserve to be met. Just because you're not meshing with a certain provider doesn't mean that you're any less important, that you have to tolerate it or anything like that. I personally, when it comes to my rheumatology aspect, I am on my fourth rheumatologist and I have a great relationship now, which is awesome. But it took me advocating, it took me speaking up to be able to say, hey, this isn't right. I got the comment, you're too young for that, or, well, that doesn't match up. Well, let's just say age is just a number because my age doesn't reflect any of my health stuff. And that's okay. That's what makes me me. But sometimes providers have a harder time. Um, thinking outside the box, or thinking of, hey, this may not fit, but this does, so let's give it a try. And sometimes it just takes that gamble, which some people aren't up for that, and some people it's completely what they're looking for, just like, hey, I'll do anything at this point type of deal. And everyone's in their own journey, and that is just fine. So I've also gone through many therapists in my life. I've started therapy back when I was in 7th grade, so I've been in and out of it for a long time. But I had a hard time finding a therapist that actually like I felt comfortable with, and I think that's a huge thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into our depression videos and anxiety and kind of talking about like mental health and all that stuff. But just because one therapist specializes in one thing doesn't mean that they're the best fit for you. Again, it can be personality, it can be location, it can be a lot of different things. And so it's really important to figure out what works for you. Some people aren't comfortable speaking to a total stranger, so they need someone with them, and that's okay too, to kind of help break the ice and get in there. And it's really important that you practice what works for you. So practicing speaking up can be something as little as asking someone, whether it be a family member or a friend, a neighbor, anything like that, hey, can you do this for me? If you can start practicing small things, saying, or even asking yourself for grace and saying, okay, I need to give myself a break on this. This is okay. If you can start practicing asking for help, little by little, you can take those bigger steps. And maybe if you go to a restaurant and something's not right, sometimes that can be really nerve-wracking for someone. They'll just take whatever, maybe they got the wrong order or something was wrong with it, and they'll just accept it. But even then, you can still be respectful to a server, but make sure you're asking that it get done correctly, because you deserve to have what you asked for. But there's no reason we need to be, I guess, jerky about it, because I don't think that I don't think it needs to come across that way. I think that everyone deserves respect, no matter if it works as a mesh or not. One quote I've heard is, your silence will not protect you. And I believe this, and that's a whole lot of why I'm doing what I'm doing, to get the message out there, because if we're alone, then we feel trapped. We feel stuck. We're not going to grow. And that's really hard, because we all deserve happiness. We all deserve joy. We all deserve to grow. And not only will your silence not help you, but it's not going to help anybody else. And you may be thinking, well, I'm not in this to get my word out there or anything like that. But even if it's not helping you, your silence could be hurting you in more ways than you think. So if you're not helping others, you're also not helping them help you, if that makes sense. So you're hurting yourself and you're hurting others hurting you. So it's kind of a complicated mess that if we can avoid by taking some little steps to practicing on advocating for ourselves, I say let's do that. I'm all for that. And I try to teach my teenage daughters that as well, because I fully believe that if we can learn how to handle certain things, then it makes whatever journey you're on, whether it's with healthcare, whether it's a relationship or anything like that, you're helping others feel not alone. And I don't think that it's just about speaking up about like what you have. I think speaking up about your journey, about your experiences, kind of like whether it be from an appointment or an interaction with a store, or reviews, stuff like that, those are always to speak up. And I think we can use social media as a huge platform too, as far as whether you're posting about like, hey, I was at the doctor today, this is what happened, or hey, I went out and did this, and just letting people know. I think if we all kind of stick together and we encourage each other to speak up and be respectful, I think that we can build some pretty harmonious bridges, from patients to providers, from different relationships, whether it be parents and children. Like, speaking up is just huge in so many realms, more than just healthcare. And it can be super liberating to be able to feel heard. Like, that's something I've personally struggled with, whether it's I'm being told I'm too young, or there's different of you don't look sick or anything like that. That's when I take it upon myself to be like, okay, I get that. I can see your perspective, but can you try and see mine? And I try to make it relatable, because I think if we can open our eyes and see things in different perspectives, I think that not only makes us wiser, but it makes us a lot kinder And going forward, we're able to kind of live with more of an open heart and an open mind. So some things that are really helpful in practicing speaking up, like I had mentioned earlier, is just saying, hey, this isn't quite right. So whether it's in your household or what have you, you could be asking your child, say, hey, can you come help me with this? Or your significant other, and be like, I need help today. I'm struggling. Whether it's, I need some laughter, that's something that really helps me a lot. And so I'll oftentimes ask my husband, I'll be like, hey, we need to do something to lighten the mood because I'm too stuck in my head today. But again, that's me asking for what I need. And if you struggle to ask for help, maybe you have some sort of um, reservations about being able to speak up, that's okay. Meet you where you're at. Like, don't put yourself down, just be like, oh, I can't do this, I'm done, and then just quit. No, I believe in you, and I know you can, because there's someone out there that you trust that could help be your advocate. So ask that someone, be like, hey, can you come to an appointment with me? You know my views on things, or what have you. Now, funny story, I have gotten asked that to a whole different level, because there's at times where, whether it's a new provider or if I'm dealing with health flare up, I'll ask my husband to speak on my behalf, and he knows a lot of what's going on. Or if I have a relapse on something, where if I collapse or what have you, he was there during the situation, so he speaks up on my behalf. And so we've actually gotten kind of some interesting answers of, do you feel safe in your relationship? And they'll have them leave the room when they ask that, and it's like, yes, I totally feel safe. I just need someone to help advocate for me. And that's okay. So even when you get kind of some discouraging things or judgments, just brush it off. It's okay. Just speak up and work for what works for you. So if you need that advocate, whether it's your parent, a friend, a colleague, whatever, make sure you're speaking up for yourself and asking for that advocate, and making sure that advocate knows what's important to you, whether you discuss it beforehand or you take notes and kind of like, okay, make sure you ask for that. And eventually, I think that your confidence could grow, but I do think that for some people, it just takes a really long time. And to be fair, I don't think I've always had my voice. I think this, for me, has really come in the last 3 years, specifically the last two. Um, and it's a pivotal moment that you have to make of, okay, I'm going to do this. I believe in myself. And you're going to have to cheerlead yourself, because there's going to be some days that you do not feel you have a voice at all. And that's okay. Be patient, because every day is a new day to start over. It's such a blessing to be able to wake up and say, okay, I'm going to speak up for myself. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to honor my body, because your body has been through so much. Whether you're interacting with someone on a relationship or whether you're interacting in a healthcare setting, it's really important to take care of yourself. So I want to remind you to make sure you're asking for questions, or asking questions on your situation, your journey, your healthcare, whatever it is. Educate yourself. Now, I do want to just kind of give a little side note, and I think I might have touched this in the last video, but when I say educate yourself, I'm being very cautious, because I don't want you to go to Dr. Google. I don't want you to go online, type in your symptoms. Oftentimes it's like the world's worst case scenario. So just take it with a shed of light and understand that, okay, this is out there. So look for different foundations that are really knowledgeable, or even ask your provider for different opportunities of where to look for certain things. Know your healthcare plan. Make sure you're very well understanding, so that way you can explain it to others so they can help care for you. And know that it's okay to switch providers, and be an advocate for yourself, but be respectful. We don't need to be rude about it. And understand that just because you switch providers doesn't mean that you're a bad patient, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Sometimes things just don't work together. So, silence no more, my friends. And something that I would like to speak up about is finding things that work for you. So I am blessed to have a friend that is able to make some really cool shirts. And so this one was custom made for me, and I'll link her link in the description. So definitely go check it out. And even if you don't see something on her site, but you know that you want to see it, definitely go check out her site and contact her, because there's a lot you can do. So mine says, find joy in the journey. I'm a huge advocate. I love the fact that I can wear it and show people about it. But she takes things a step further. She looked up the meaning of a triangle and just really helped bring out the message that I want. So I'd love for you to all go check out her website. So I'll definitely put that in the link. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and share and subscribe so that way you don't miss out on next month's videos, because next month we're starting to get into a little bit more on diagnosis. I believe next month is depression and anxiety, and it's going to be really important. So don't forget to also check out my blog, and that'll be on www.surviveyourstruggle.wordpress.com. I'll also link that below. All right, until next time, I'll see you later. Peace and love, warriors.